There we go. All right. So I'm going to start out, if I can share my screen here. For those of you that I don't know very well or haven't seen come to our recent events, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, do a really brief overview of the organization, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Let's see. And let me know when you all can see my screen here. Thank you, Jason. I see the head nod. All right, so South Florida Tech Hub. So our mission statement, building South Florida's Tech Hub. So I'm going to go a little bit through what that means, because I know it's a very generic and broad mission statement. So, of course, I always have this in here for myself more than anything, because I forget to introduce myself every time. So my name is Nikki Caboose. I'm the CEO of South Florida Tech Hub. And I will not read this word for word, but basically we are a technology nonprofit. We are a 501c6. We do have a foundation side, which is a 501c3. We currently have about 200 plus corporate members, about 240 across the region. We are currently the only fully regional tech nonprofit in all of South Florida. So we span from Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, and Martin counties. And I'm going to go really briefly into a little bit of some of the different things we do and how you all can get engaged. These are just to give you an idea of some of our current members, probably some more of the recognizable names. You'll see everything on there from City Furniture. Obviously, you'll have Zoom, DSS, AWS, Office Depot, some of the more recognizable ones. But with that said, we do have early stage or seed stage startups all the way through larger enterprise. So we have your single guys, single entrepreneurs, all the way through thousands of employees. So we've got a little bit of everybody in between. So these are our 4 core pillars or our main focuses or initiatives as an organization. So talent, brand, community, and startups. Talent is anything that is talent and workforce related. We work with K through 12 or the school districts all the way up through higher education, and then also working with tech professionals and helping them get placed in different opportunities around the region. Branding is, how are we branding South Florida as a tech hub? So how are people viewing South Florida from across the state or across the country? And making sure that we get rid of the stereotype.
Getting ready to go to.
Oh, sorry, Gio, you're not on mute. Again, just making sure branding, that we're branding ourselves across the region, and making sure, again, getting rid of the stereotype of just being a place for vacation. We want people to know that we've got a thriving business and tech ecosystem here in South Florida. Community is, for lack of better words, it's about all of you. It's about our community, our people. We work with a lot of the local user groups, meetup groups, a lot of the larger expos and conferences that happen in South Florida. So really just anybody that is the conveners of other people, we want to bring them together and make sure that we're connecting our ecosystem. And then finally, startups. So again, like I was saying earlier, not that we support only startups, but that even our larger companies now have their own venture funds, their own internal corporate innovation. They've got mentorship, sponsorships towards startups. They're actually getting involved in the startup and entrepreneurship ecosystem as well. Another area, I'm not going to read all of these verbatim, but we have in total about 20 different member peer groups and committees. So depending on what your role or title is with your company, or also just interest that the company may have, we have different groups that members can join and get involved with different peers. And these are some of our different committees as well. And I often get asked a really brief description of the difference. Peer groups are peer-to-peer sharing and networking. Committees are more like little mini working groups. So there's actually little, there's like a mini mission and vision underneath our larger mission and vision. There's different projects or initiatives that those groups are working on. So it's definitely more like a working group, the committees. Membership, we have, for anybody that's interested, we have individual memberships for an individual person. We have corporate memberships, and the corporate memberships range in 4 different levels for startup companies all the way to enterprise. If anybody's interested, you can go to our website at southfloridatechhub.org. And then there's a big turquoise button at the top right that says join today if you'd like to get some more information. I'm going to skip right past through the different membership levels. And then really briefly about some of our events. So we host different virtual and in-person events, everything from lunch and learns, which we typically host on Fridays. We have a podcast, community coffees like this, our panels. We also have a lot of different happy hours that we move around the region. And of course, a lot of co-branded events with other nonprofits, chambers, larger expos as well. So there's always something going on. In an average week, there's probably 2 to 3, maybe even 5 events in 1 week. So always something to check out. Last but not least here, for anybody that is looking for an opportunity, we do have a job board on our website. It's under the button that says talent on the main toolbar, but you'll also notice if you scroll over that talent button, there's something called a resume distributor. So this is basically, if you're looking through the job board, you don't see that perfect job right in the moment, but you really want to get your resume out into the hands of a bunch of great companies in South Florida. You can actually fill out a little tiny submission form, upload your resume, and when you hit submit, it goes to all the member companies at once to get your resume in the hands of a bunch of great companies all at one time. And I think that is nope, that's second to last screen. So this one, if anybody would like to be added to our Slack channel or to our weekly newsletter that goes out on Mondays, the Slack channel is just techhubsouthflorida.org/Slack. And there's about, I think, I don't know, 4,500, 5,000 people in the community on there currently. Or you can text us your email address to be added to the weekly newsletter that goes out on Mondays. And that number is on the screen there, the 561-250-7206. And I am going to, it's enough of my spiel. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And we're going to get right into our discussion this morning. So to start out this morning, our discussion is the future of streaming technologies. So I know that we've been hearing a ton about different streaming technologies and tools, and it seems to be becoming a really big thing and something that's really popular, especially with the popularity of Netflix rising. And I think all of that has really, changed the way that we are watching television. We're using services, we're hosting conferences. So that's a lot of the discussion of what we're going to have this morning. Before we get started into the questions, I'm just going to ask each of our panelists to introduce yourselves, tell us your name, what company you're from, and a little bit about your role, and then we will get started right with the Q&A. I am going to just start out with whoever's first on my screen. So Kenny, I've got you up first.
Thank you, Nikki. My name is Kenny Scannell. I'm from Zoom, and I lead sales for Zoom webinar and Zoom events. So my role, I'm responsible for everything related to sales, customer support, etc. So happy to be talking to you guys. Great discussion here.
Perfect. Thank you, Kenny. And I've got Gio. I've got you up next.
Hi, this is Gio, CEO and co-founder of Streann Media. We help content providers and content creators distribute, engage, and monetize their content. So it's going to be a fun conversation with everybody.
Awesome.
And we're here,
Gio.
based in Miami. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And Jason, last but not least.
Sure. Great to be here. Jason Cohn, CEO, co-founder of My Bundle TV. We're simplifying streaming for consumers. So we're helping consumers find the services that are right for them, cut the cord, and then connecting them. We have a big business with broadband and cable providers, as well as streaming services, really looking to simplify the whole new way of watching TV. Perfect.
And again, I know he's not hopped on yet. I'm assuming he's had some problems hopping on or cannot, but we were supposed to have Mitchell Ashley from TechStrong Group. They host some online and virtual conferences. They have, I know, a streaming like podcasts and some different talks. So hopefully we'll have him some point join us. But if not, definitely check out TechStrong Group. So I'm going to start our questions off this morning, getting right into the discussion. Gio, I'm going to pick on you first. So since the popularity of Netflix has been growing again, we've seen so much of these new streaming services and technologies kind of pop out in the industry. Is live streaming a fad, or is this something that live streaming is going to be around for the long run? And just give us your opinion on that.
Yes. So I'm a strong, obviously strong believer in live streaming. I think streaming is starting now. So what you see today, what we know today as streaming is Netflix. What the future of streaming is going to be UGC, user generated content, is going to be more interactivity, more power to the end user. And this is starting now, really. So I'm fascinated. So don't get alarmed when you see all these new OTT offerings coming around and Netflix losing subscribers to Disney, Peacock, or HBO. There's no reason to alarm yourself. You know, it's going to happen. It's going to continue to happen. But really what streaming is going to look like in the future and in the present too is, again, more UGC, more interactivity. So these platforms need to give us more, right? So it's not just about that passive relationship with the end user. I'm just watching, I'm downloading and watching. I want to interact. And whoever gets that right, and I know for a fact there are companies that we work with using our own technology that are working on this type of interactivity. Whoever gets there first is going to start winning the race and really capturing the attention of other users or away from the traditional. So it's again, UGC interactivity is where this is going.
Perfect. And feel free, Kenny or Jason, or as I ask each panelist a question, if anybody would like to add anything, I want this to be a most open conversation as possible. So this was not in my questions, so I apologize. I'm going to throw this out there, but you had talked a little bit about, and I know we've got a question about this in the future, but is just a little bit about user generated content. As you were speaking, Gio, I was thinking about just the age of the users. I guess it's a question for all of you. Do you find that the younger generations are picking up streaming and doing more of this user generated content than some of the older generation? As you were talking, I was literally just thinking of my mom, and she still watches old fashioned television, no streaming services. She's barely gotten onto Netflix. Just thinking, is there something to do with like the age, and are the younger generations going to be pushing this a little bit more?
Yeah, and it started, with the younger generation, right? So it started with them accepting and cutting the cord faster than an older generation, but it's catching up. So TikTok's audience right now it's growing up, right? So that's going to be very, very interesting. So it's growing up. More adults are using it instead. Then listen to this. I think this is great. Instead in YouTube. So TikTok is replacing actually YouTube in terms of search, in terms of how-to videos, right? Where we used to go just to YouTube, now you're going to TikTok. You're starting to see an older audience, more brands, obviously, talking to older audiences also on these other platforms. So it's happening. It's starting to, the curve is starting to move up. What does it mean also, right? We've seen it with MySpace and other platforms where people then all of a sudden just left it. Facebook is suffering. Instagram is dead. These are crazy concepts that 5-10 years ago you couldn't even talk about. So there is a shift. The shift is moving toward UGC. That's all about TikTok, but that audience is maturing. That type of content is maturing. TikTok is doing also some interesting thing. It's starting to increase the amount of video lengths on their platform. So we used to go from 15 seconds, 30 seconds. Now you can actually upload video of 10 minutes, right? Why? You want to track the podcasting technology on this platform. So again, content creation, but the key is going to be for the OTT streaming company, the key is going to be original content. And the only way for you to create original content at a cost-effective price is if you give the power to the end user. So it's got to be UGC. Otherwise, you're running against the Hollywood studios and trying to make too much of a high production quality. One example I always give is QB versus TikTok. Who won that war?
Right. Exactly. And actually, Gio, you said something that is perfect to lead me into my next question for Jason was, you were talking about some of these different platforms and what they're doing and the current popularity and even past popularity of them. But Jason, what are some of the most common streaming services that we're seeing in today's world? And then can you give us some insight into some of these trends, which I think that's where Gio is going. So if anybody wants to add to that as well, but just curious what you're seeing right now as far as like the top services.
Sure. So almost stepping back a second to the last question, you mentioned age, right? And what's happening. And so one of the things people are often surprised about is there's still, we all think everyone's got the cord already, except for a few old people somewhere, right? But that's not the case at all. So 67 million households, more than half the country, still has traditional cable with a set-top box or satellite TV. So when we think about kind of like you said, where we are in the streaming, if we think about young people really focused on the UGC and TikTok, and there is still so much more content to move from traditional facilities-based TV over to streaming. So we're incredibly bullish on how much more streaming there is to go. Now, companies like, we said like, what's popular? So often people like they start with Netflix, right? That's their entryway into the streaming world. And there's a difference between how many people actually subscribe to Netflix and how many people watch Netflix. And that's on Netflix to sort of figure that 100 million number out that they throw out there. But really what people don't know is there are 9 different live TV streaming services that, you can get your local channels, ESPN, History, A&E, whatever you really want in the old way. And what we're finding, one of our first tools where My Bundle got started was helping people make that transition, right? And so it's not people in their 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s. It's also people in their 60s and 70s and even 80s. People come and use our tool because it shouldn't be a research project to make the transition to safe. So we see increasing amount of people cutting the cord and an increasing opportunity. And we play more on the traditional content as opposed to anything UGC related. But we think that there's a big opportunity also for even more streaming services that focus on niche services as the big guys consolidate and in some cases raise prices, right? We're all fairly complaining about prices going up. That there's an opportunity for smaller providers that focus on food, that focus on the home, that focus on action sports, to really come out and find the customer base. They all don't need 120 million subscribers. You could build a nice business with 500,000, 1 million, if you keep your content costs appropriate. So again, we also very much believe this is just the beginning, and it's going to get even more complicated in the short term as well.
Does anybody want to add in anything to that? I saw some head nods as he was talking.
Yeah, I had a question about the actual platform providers or for the content providers. Obviously, TikTok isn't something we would use for OTT. I was wondering if we could get into that discussion because specifically in South Florida, we have a lot of genre film festivals. Popcorn Fight is going on next month, and Miami Sci-Fi it's also here. We're both top 5 film festivals worldwide for our genre, and we used Eventive, and we've experimented with other platforms, and they've all basically been disasters. So I can go into what went wrong, but you probably already know. But yeah, I was wondering if you could talk about what platform capabilities are available for content producers.
Yeah, sure. If anybody wants to take that question, because I know we had a similar question outlined. I think actually that might have been for Mitch, but yeah, if anybody wants to talk about like any of the different like conference platforms, content platforms.
Yeah, I can take a biased approach to this. So any content provider, anybody that's creating content, you have a massive amount of content. I think the approach needs to be direct to consumer. I think it's not just being part of an OTT platform. I think it's you build your own. You go direct to consumer. You need to own the data. One thing I always tell our prospects or customers is that Netflix is not a content company. Netflix is a data company, right? And once you start, Tesla is not a car company. Tesla is a data company. You got to think yourself as, yes, you're creating content, but what you really want is the data behind it. You can have your content hosted on YouTube, but you don't know first name, last name, email. You don't have that database. You have general ideas of how that content is being watched. So, and I've had this discussion with a lot of content creators that say, I'd rather be on a platform that's already created rather than, go direct to consumer. But I think at the end of the day, you need to go direct to consumer. The pricing of going direct to consumer, by the way, used to be very, very high. To create your own Netflix, you go back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you needed to invest millions of dollars. Now there's different platforms out there. We're part of that ecosystem, but the different platforms out there that, $500, $1,000, $5,000, depending what your budget is, will help you go direct to consumer. So now you own your own destiny. And I think that's the best approach, short-term and long-term, for your content strategy. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for the question, Prav, and thank you, Gio. So just because I think it kind of goes along with the discussion, I'm going to kind of skip a couple questions that we had here. And I know that we're throwing out a bunch of different names of different platforms and tools. And one thing that, as we're talking, that I'm thinking about is because there's been a lot of criticism, and maybe I think this was your question, Jason, there's a lot of criticism in the streaming kind of market that similar to cable providers. I know that we've always had this problem in my personal home was, one, the cost of it, but then two is there's so many different ones and you're getting different, shows with each provider. And so we were one of the people too that okay, we used ABC company for our cable, but then we paid another ABC company just to get the sports package or whatever, right? So can you talk a little bit about there's criticism saying, okay, all that's going to happen is we're going from all these different cable providers and now we're going to go to all these different streaming providers and it's going to be the same problem. We're going to have to be managing, 10 different providers and paying 10 different services. So I think that's a lot of what you do. Can you talk about what we're going to kind of see there?
Yeah, so it's funny. It's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. Anytime you see on Twitter, right, somebody tweeting oh, man, if somebody, we went from one bill with all these channels to now 10 bills and it costs just as much. And I actually think that's wrong. First of all, right. So I think, apples to apples, comparing cable to Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, and then all these other streaming services is not really a fair comparison because most people have cable and Netflix and Amazon and then the others, right? So there's a big chunk of that bill. However, if you decided to sign up for every streaming services out there, yes, your bill is huge. What our view is, the way this is sort of this middle period where, and that's, I mentioned before, really messy, where every company is trying to figure out how do they stake out their claim in this new world. And so prices are, how do we make money? How do we make more money? What's the right price, et cetera? We think it's way better because consumers get to pick their services, right? So we went from a world where everyone had to pay one big bill and you maybe consumed 5 channels or 8 channels or 11 channels. So now you have the ability to get way more content and just pick the services you want. And by the way, turn them on and off every few months. Now, I mentioned the messy period. The experience kind of sucks, right? I've got 5 streaming services and I can't, when I want to find a new show to watch, I have to go through Netflix and then I go through Amazon and then I go through Hulu and then 30 minutes later, you're still not watching TV, right? And so we very much believe that there's a way better way, even better than the TV. We all have either a Roku or a Fire TV or a Samsung. There's a better way to discover. Frankly, we think on your phone, right? On your phone, on your tablet, talking to your TV. There's a really, really, we think, bunch of cool new ways to discover content, make recommendations to friends, get recommendations from friends, create a master watch list, right? Watch this up, and then also subscribe, right? It's ridiculous to have to subscribe to 6 different services at the same time and have 6 different credit cards and try to keep track of that. So a core value proposition that my bundle is building is not just to help people find streaming services that are right for them, and not just help you find content that's on the different services that you already subscribe to, but to actually aggregate the bill into one place. And we do that both on our site and also with our 100+ broadband provider partners, because a dirty little secret here, that, or maybe a clean little secret that most people don't appreciate, is that the cable companies are looking to get out of the video business also, right? They're not making any money on any of this. So everyone's bills are going up. Everyone blames their cable company, but especially for the 2,000, 2,200 small cable companies that are out there, it's not them that's raising prices. It's the ESPNs of the world. It's the Viacoms. It's the actual media content. It's the broadcasters. And so there's this big principal agent problem where not only do consumers want to switch to this new world, right? The cable providers are also looking to make a big change. And so for us, we kind of sit right in between and are looking to say, how can we simplify this with technology, right? That's effectively what my bundle comes down to.
That's awesome. Yeah, actually, I didn't even think of just that, is just even paying the bills of all of these, that can be a pain too, to have it all in one place. Right?
And that opportunity, right? The more you bundle, the more you save, right? Because there is something to bundling that we all know it works, right? And it can be convenient, and helping broadband providers give a discount, right? There's a lot to do, but just to say, we took a system of 30 years of a set-top box and a billing process, blew it up. Now it's a completely different marketplace. And so there's this period of everyone trying to figure out, what do I do? Which is great for us because it's not just consumers, it's the actual service providers have no idea what to do either.
Right.
So.
Right. And actually you had said something, Jason, that made me think too, is so you had mentioned mobile users. And I know that's something also that we haven't talked about yet, but is you know, I guess, again, this is probably a question for all of you, because I know all of your tools, you know, can be used through mobile as well. But what are we seeing versus like desktop users versus mobile? Again, is it an age thing, or is it just adoption across the board that people are, you know, kind of, you know, watching shows or using streaming services? Or because I know, you know, even like Gio and Kenny, both of you have mobile applications for both of your products. I mean, what are we seeing versus desktop versus mobile users?
I mean, I'll give my perspective. In general, mobile is really starting to make up a big portion of both attendees. We're even seeing situations where there has been presenters on mobile, and as long as you have a good broadband speed, like the streaming technology for, you know, companies like Zoom are very reliable. I think I saw that the last stat I saw across across all of webinars in 2021, it was made up like 15% or maybe 15, close to 20% of attendees were now mobile, which has transitioned a lot. You know, being in the space for about a decade in the virtual events and in webinar space, I'd say about 5 years ago, it was more like 8%. So everyone's on their phone. A lot of the players like Zoom and others that have good, reliable mobile applications, it's making it easy for people to join mobile. Plus, the other aspect is, you know, not everyone can just be in front of their desktop all the time. So you're getting people on the go. I've seen some people on here as well that are on the go viewing. So, you know, the other aspect we're seeing is just the on-demand aspect of streaming and webinars and events. You can't always join at a certain time, so you want to have the ability to join, you know, at any time from any place.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And you know, as you're talking, I was thinking even for a lot of the underserved communities, we've noticed even when working with some of the school districts and the schools, like there was recently a class of seniors that just graduated where they all had phones, but a lot of them didn't have computers, they didn't have tablets. But I think it's pretty common for the average person to at least have a phone. So I think, yeah, that it's very important, because I think there's, you know, we have one of the most powerful tools right in our back pocket. So I do see a lot of this content creation and just users being through mobile. So I think that was an important comment. So thank you, Kenny and Jason, for that as well.
Yeah, let me throw something in there about the screen. So we have millions of active users on our platforms. We're building these these niche OTT platforms all over the world, right? And what we've seen is 60% is still on desktop, about 40% is on mobile, which is interesting. That 60% on desktop is web and web responsive as well. But 40% is increasing on mobile. The other new areas where we're seeing people watching content is connected TVs. So you have this new
Mhm.
trend right now of smart TVs. So now it goes back into the big screen, right? And a lot depends on what type of content you're gonna watch. So people, it seems like sports content is best for connected TVs. So there's a huge trend right now of bringing sports content, OTT platforms, and Prav just mentioned that his content is going to be on Roku. So it is the Roku, the Fire TV, the Android TV. Google is back into that game. So we're going to start seeing more and more of that trend as well, where the TVs are going to become smarter. That
Mhm.
means that the operating system on the TV is going to be probably an Android or Roku device. Which, what does that do for the end user? Again, it will create more interactivity. So the world is going to be where from my mobile phone, I'll be able to connect and send messages back to my smart TVs as well. And what we should look forward to is this evolution of streaming. So that's why I go back to what I said at the beginning. Streaming is just getting started.
Mhm.
And interesting, because of COVID, you've seen this huge shift of streaming services because everybody was home and needed to really be connected on streaming or create content using streaming. But the best is yet to come.
I'll just throw in there a crazy stat that to me is crazy. Is I always thought you think of YouTube as a computer or your phone, right? Like you're watching short clips on your phone. I think the latest number was 38% or 35% of all YouTube viewership takes place on the TV screen, which to me was
I didn't know
wild.
that.
Yeah, which was wild because you think, again, whether it's Netflix or Hulu, you sit down and you watch a 30-minute hour show or live TV, whatever it is, like traditional TV. But there's already that's why TikTok is they've just released a
smart
TV
TVs.
app, right? Now the advertising, you could charge more for CTV advertising than
Huge.
anything else, right? It's a bigger screen and such. So you're going to keep seeing even that. But again, just to share, it's even that's getting complicated, right? So Roku was the dominant platform in the US for the TV operating system. But, obviously Fire TV, you have Google TV, and now the TV manufacturers are saying, wait a second, why are we letting Roku come on here? So obviously Samsung is really big. LG has their own operating system. Vizio is a publicly traded company that's built. And the reason why all these companies are looking to get into the TV operating system business is because that's who's the gatekeeper for the advertising dollars. And so you have this really on the business side, as viewership shifts from linear traditional TV over to streaming, there's a big lag on the ad dollars, right? Because Netflix didn't have ads and Prime Video didn't have ads. And there's so what all these guys doing? They're all turning on ads because there's so much money that is sitting there that's about to come over. And so there's going to be more and more and more and more ad options on your TV screen. Those TV operating systems are looking to get a piece of that money as well, so that when you sit down, you watch half as many ads, but because it's on connected devices and it's over the internet and they know more about you because this is your home and it's your internet connection, the IP, they can charge 2-3x, right, what they might have gotten digital. And so there's, again, back to what Gio said, it's really even just getting started, the ad side on the TV screen as well over streaming.
So I had a question for all of you on this, because I know a lot of people think that, going virtual, streaming services, that a lot of it was really pushed because of the pandemic. But I think what we're talking about here is that it started before the pandemic, maybe higher adoption rates during the pandemic, but that, like Gio said, this is really just getting started, that we don't think that this is going away with people getting back in person or anything like that, right?
No, it's going to be, and I'll take that, and it's going to be a hybrid model for a long time. And also, what's one thing that we did not mention is, this big revolution of video podcasting as well. So the entire concept of podcasting and creating content for your brands, that is also replacing radio. So you mentioned,
Yeah.
Jason, something about YouTube. I was listening to Gary Vee, I don't know if anybody you will follow him, very big on content creation. And he said that the number one place where people listen to these audio podcasts is YouTube.
Mhm.
So, podcasting is growing. Again, it's replacing radio. Video podcasting is a new way of content creation that's going to help you as well engage and create a better brand. So, absolutely, I think there's going to be new ways, new tools that people need to use. Hybrid is the way to go. But it is a lot of brands need to start to create more content. Going back to what you asked at the beginning, that content also needs to be live streamed. That's where the complication comes in, right? Because with live streaming, there's always something wrong that happens. You need to learn, deal with it, and still deploy live streaming without that fear that the audio sometimes is not going to work, the video is going to cut off. I don't know if any of you have ever done Instagram Live. It's not stable. It's just never stable, right? So, but people want to see live. Live creates engagement. Live is original content. So live streaming is the way to go. And we're going to see more and more of that, where the hybrid model is where it's at.
Kenny, I'd love to hear from you just on the business side, right? Well, just from a consumer, obviously COVID, people are stuck at home, more people watching. Now people can go outside again. But obviously, I mean, I work from home. I don't know how many other people on the call work from home, but events, specifically events and webinars, do they come back in person? Do we do more of this than before? What are you seeing? Like, what do you think the future holds?
Yeah, it's such an interesting topic. And Nikki, I think you hit on the head earlier. Like this technology, this concept has been around for a long time. I think there's a perception in the consumer market that it just happened because of the pandemic.
Right.
Companies like, I was at a company called On24 before this. They launched in 1998. So they've been doing virtual events and webinars, since then. Zoom's been in the space for a while. So it's very much growing. It's going to continue growing. I think, like you said, it introduced more people to the concept of virtual events and webinars, and it's just grown in popularity. So a lot of the research that we're getting from research firms like Forrester and others are expecting the virtual events market to be 46 billion just on the technology side. I'm not even talking about production and AV services. So, from what we're seeing, it's a growing market. People are finding interesting ways to run events. I mean, at Zoom, we see everything from the consumer side, where you're seeing people run virtual events for their wedding or funerals. And then on the business side, we have everything from the large scale conferences that are, to Gio's point, they're going hybrid. So we're getting elements of both. You're bringing the virtual audience into the in-person experience. And, you're seeing that continue to improve with a lot more players in the space doing it well. So it's just going to continue growing. I think we'll see more and more use cases. The other aspect I'll throw out really quick is, from the business side, I think the thing that marketers and event professionals saw more than anything was just the ability to track analytics and add more engagement. So when you're at an in-person conference, or you're at any in-person event, you're shaking hands. We all love the interaction, and we're not suggesting that people should go away from that. We encourage that. But from a hybrid perspective, having the ability to extend your audience, capture more analytics, and serving up content that people are more interested in. That's where the market's going.
Yeah, and it's I wish Mitch was able to join us this morning, because at TechStrong Group, that's a lot of what they do. They've been around, again, like you were saying, they've been around for years and years, way prior to the pandemic. And TechStrong Group does a lot of video streaming, like chats and podcasts. They do a lot of virtual conferences and events. And again, they've been doing this pre-pandemic, and they're now an international company. And so we were talking a lot about data. And one of the things that they do is they collect data from these conferences and from the international attendees. And they also have like a blog, depending on what people are joining and what type of conferences and the content that they're looking for. And then they have a bunch of different blogs or newsletters that go out to the different folks, depending on, what content that they were looking for. But so that I'm glad you said that, Kenny. And I actually just saw, Barry, did you have something you wanted to add to what Kenny said?
Yeah, hi, thanks. So like Kenny, I've been in the streaming media business for 20 years down here in South Florida with a company called Streann Media. So streaming has been around for a very long time. The net is when it first was launched, when it was first launched in a business case, it was for investor relations events. And there was a fear about having any kind of video. It was all audio. I think what COVID did, and thanks to Zoom, is they made video much more customer centric, people much more comfortable getting in front of video. Corporations now are using video all day, every day, in all the capacities. And I'm not just talking about Zoom, I'm talking about all the different players. But to Kenny's point, the hybrid events that are taking place and were taking place, it talks not only to being able to extend the message and spread the message, wider. Even if I'm in person at a 3-day, 5-channel event, I can't be in more than one room at a time. So if I can go back to my hotel room or back to my house and watch the video that I missed in the other 4 rooms, to me, that's a huge advantage. And to the companies, that's a huge advantage. And to the sponsoring technology, that's a huge advantage. So I think to Kenny's point and to everyone else's point, hybrid is here and hybrid isn't going away anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I've actually, with us here at Tech Hub, I mean, obviously we use Zoom, we're on Zoom, but I've used both Gio's platform, Streann Media, and also Zoom for hybrid content. And I know for us as an organization, it's been really, really helpful. One, like you were saying, is being able to connect with more people and getting, it is hard, as we expanded, because for those of you that may not know, we started 7 years ago just as a Palm Beach County-wide organization. We used to be called Palm Beach Tech. And then when we expanded regionally and we went to 4 different counties, it was much easier to get people in the same quote unquote room from Miami and Palm Beach Gardens or Martin County and Broward, on doing it virtually. And we have had things where we have different conferences or events where we've had different platforms that we've used where there's those little tables that you can hop in and out of, and you're networking with people, and there's multiple breakout rooms, and it has been really helpful to do that. So I definitely agree with you, Barry, says there's, multiple ways to use it and multiple ways to kind of divvy up that content and even reuse it afterwards for those of people that weren't able to catch it in the moment. I did want to ask, I guess this question is both for Kenny and Gio, but can you talk a little bit about how people are using your content at some of these hybrid events? Or because I know one fear of people that haven't used any of these tools yet is how to do that. They don't want to mess up. They're scared of going live. Can you guys talk a little bit about just kind of the usability and just kind of the ease of use and how to maybe get somebody that hasn't done this before to use some of your content?
Yeah, I can address that from a business perspective. I mean, a lot of the solutions, including Zoom events that have launched in the last decade, have made it really easy to launch an event. So it's literally set up step by step. Let's do this first. Let's upload this video. Let's set up this webinar to host within the event. I mean, so they make it very easy. So from our perspective, there's different elements within a virtual event. So you have an expo hall where you can virtually walk around and enter different booths and interact with people within there. You can actually video chat with somebody within a booth. You have the actual session. So you have the keynote session, you have breakout sessions. So it's set up pretty easy, in my opinion, these days, where there's definitely a lot of planning that goes into it, but it's not what it used to be 10 years ago, where there's a very heavy lift. There's 60 plus hours in professional services hours a lot of companies provide to help out companies with the preparation of these events. So that's changed. They've made it easy to run these events. And I've seen events that were pulled together within like a week and launched to 20,000 concurrent attendees. So it's changed pretty dramatically. And I think we'll continue to see improvements on that end, both on the interactivity within the event as well as the ease of use. Yeah,
I know just as you're talking too, I'm thinking, Gio, I know you have a bunch of videos on just the ease of, going live on your tool. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? I forget what it was. It was like 60 seconds or 30 seconds or whatever
Yeah,
it
no,
is
it's
to
less
set
than
it up.
1
But I
minute.
remember
Yeah,
seeing
yeah,
some of
yeah.
that.
Yeah, increase content creation by decreasing the cost of it, right? So what we created is a video podcasting solution, which is called Streann Studio, that helps anybody create a video podcast in less than 1 minute. You go back 10 years ago, it was hard to do all of this, right? Everybody acknowledges that the business 10 years ago was extremely hard to create content. You need experts, you needed videographers, graphic designers, and what we've done is we lower that cost, and now in less than 1 minute you can create your own video podcast, which again we strongly believe that's going to replace radio. With that, it comes more interactivity, polls, trivia, engage with the audience, chats, and then that distribution also to social media. We're taking it a step further. We believe that the content creator, brands or content providers, anybody today is a content creator. So let's take that head off or head on and say, I'm a content creator. At some point, you want to monetize that content as well. So for us, the vision is, yes, we'll help you create content, live stream it, distribute it on any platform. But our mission is really you need to monetize. You need to make money on that content. And that, even we didn't talk about it here, but that can even be an NFT play, right? And that's what we're going with empowering the content creator to take. That's where I said this is just the beginning, right? Go back where this is going is that the beginning is what we're seeing, what we're feeling right now, but what's coming, it's going to be unbelievable.
That's a really good point. I think now with Web3, I think
Exactly.
it's limitless. Yes.
There's so much more, and who wins is the end user, right? Who wins is the end user. So that's where I said this is just streaming today is, yes, it's Netflix. That's what it is. It's all these different OTT providers. What is it going to be in the future? It's going to be a lot. There has to be a lot of Web 3.0, and thanks to the shift in streaming, technology wins. So whoever is going to win this game is the one that invests the most in technology.
Right. Yeah. And I think, similar, I was thinking as Jason, you were talking about all the different streaming providers, and we were talking about Gio, you had just mentioned even the virtual conference platforms, and like these virtual platforms adding, we just tried another one the other day for conferences, and they have like a, it's almost like a speed networking tool within the platform. But yeah, you're noticing where you can hop in and out of different rooms. There's a speed networking tools. There's, you were saying, mentioning polls, like they're getting really creative with different things that you can do in the platform to almost make you feel like you're there in person, and it's more interactive than just sitting, on a video. So I do think, as we start to see more and more of these technologies, kind of change over the years, that we're going to notice a lot more creativity coming out of them. Because I've liked a lot of the really cool tools that I've seen, even through Zoom, using you guys now for years, seeing a lot of the new cool tools come out. One question I did have, and this is a little bit of selfishness, and I'm sure Bess will like this question, is one thing that I've always struggled with as a content creator is accessibility. So one thing that we've always struggled with is when we use like Zoom or any other tool to live stream, it doesn't often catch captions. I do think the captions are getting better and actually captioning them correctly or well, the words, but I'm just curious if anybody has any insight into this. I don't know, Kenny, if you may just use, being part of Zoom, but that's something that we've always struggled with, is just accessibility. Do you guys have any comments on what are the best tools to integrate, with Zoom to make sure that captions can be read, or how to, because even now when we live stream like our Zoom to Facebook, even if we're streaming the captions here, like in Zoom, Facebook doesn't pick that up. And so we've always struggled with accessibility, because we do have a lot of deaf and hard of hearing community. I know there's a couple on this morning that are part of that community as well.
Yeah, so at Zoom we have our own transcription and captioning service. So it's improved a lot. I think overall, from what I've seen, again, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it's improved immensely. So I've seen some, it depends if you have, if you have an accent, it's not as good, or, some of those, it's never going to be perfect, but we're starting to see upwards of 95% or so accuracy. So it's heading in a good direction. I can't think of any, I mean, there's plenty of other services that you can quickly Google that you can integrate. So encourage people to look into that, but it's definitely, top of mind for every company today. We want to make sure that accessibility is top of mind. And, oftentimes there's requirements too with a lot of the companies we work with, especially in financial services and legal and healthcare. So definitely top of mind. I think we'll continue to see improvement on that end.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of companies coming out with the transcription services. And like you said, I think even within Zoom, it's really, really improved the accuracy. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what other platforms, the platforms that you can integrate, how well those work, because that's always where we've struggled is when we, like I said, using Zoom, it works well in here, but then live streaming through another third party doesn't always work. So
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing how that works out. So to move on, I do have another question. I was going to pose this question to you, Kenny, but again, anybody can add to this is one big thing, and I know that this was big for Zoom.
I just wanted to add something to the captioning. Sorry.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, our lawyer is hard of hearing, so we have to experiment with various caption services. Is more accurate than the generic stuff. Because obviously for legal stuff, he can't get it wrong, and we don't want him to get it wrong either. But there's a big difference in the quality of captioning different services.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think I saw one recently that was like only 60% accuracy. And then of course, like Zoom, we were saying it's up to 95% accuracy. You wouldn't think that, 30% is a big difference, but it really is. It looks like you're speaking Greek with some of the ones that are 60%. It does not capture a lot of what you're saying. So yeah, I agree with you, Prav. So I know we've got a couple minutes left here. I know that one important question I did not want to leave out. Again, Kenny, I was going to pose this to you because I know that early on in the pandemic, Zoom had dealt with a lot of these issues. And I think now you guys have really done a great job when it comes to privacy. Can you talk a little bit about how event professionals are balancing privacy, legal concerns, and just how did Zoom address that in the beginning of the pandemic, and kind of what are we seeing right now with that?
Yeah. So again, another thing is top of mind for us and a lot of different companies. So what we saw early on is just the mainstream adoption of Zoom and other similar technologies, where you had direct consumers and people that aren't in the business world you started using Zoom for use cases that we didn't really see as much before. So one key best practice that I think everyone learned early on was you don't want to publish out a meeting invite out on Facebook or somewhere else where somebody can access it publicly. And that's where you get some of the bad actors jumping in. So best practice that we always recommend is not to do that, but also not to use a personal meeting ID. So if you're using like the Zoom generated ID, it changes every time, and there's not that predictability on what it's going to be. Also, if you're looking at events and webinars, there's a registration process, so who's entering. It's very gated. It's gated, and you know what you're getting. The other thing I'll mention is good best practice, especially with larger audiences. You want to have moderators. You want to have people that are monitoring the chats, and sometimes you're getting people there maybe having a bad day or something, and they're posting crazy stuff in there. So I've seen it all, and but those are a couple best practices that I'll share.
No, that's wonderful. I think it always has been helpful. I know even doing just these with a smaller group, I've always tried to have somebody on with me from the team just in case be watching chat. And like you said, a few times I've had also to kick people out, and it's very easy to kick people out. Yeah. So that's one good thing that Zoom has done, is made it pretty easy to do that. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Kenny, if you do that, the person can't get back into the same Zoom session, right? Like if you kick them out of that one.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So quick question about best practices. So I noticed if you watch any sort of TV show where they have a Zoom interview between the host and the interviewee, right? It seems like the quality is higher, their resolution is higher than we experience with Zoom. And we've been experimenting with that. Obviously, with the film festival, we want the highest quality, especially for showing clips and stuff too. So we've been doing like quick time screen captures of our screen. Like we do live stream it, so we always load up twice, right? Once a live stream and the second time with the higher definition screen capture. But what's your recommendation about increasing resolution?
Yeah, I mean, I think lighting is the number one thing. I think having a microphone is also important. A lot of times the sound quality, that's the thing that's underrated in my opinion. And you can buy, like I bought this microphone here that's, I think it was $70 on Amazon, and it's high quality. But lighting is key. Even like leveraging virtual backgrounds. A lot of what you see on TV, they're in like a studio setting, so they have lightings, they have the green screen in the background. So that's the secret to their magic. But even for me on day-to-day meetings and talking to high-level executives from different corporations, for me, it's about the lighting. I use a background. I even use like this intro here. I mean, there's a lot of different things you could do to improve the experience.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I say you look very professional this morning, Kenny. Your setup is like perfect. Your lighting and the image and everything. And as you're talking, I'm like, man, I'm doing everything wrong. I need a background. But it's true, is like how much lighting changes. Because as you can see, I'm like more light on this side of me. Even just a simple, like I think I bought it for like $30. Those little tiny ring lights that will like clip onto your laptop. I usually use one, and mine broke. And now just having a lamp next to me, lighting makes a difference.
Yeah,
It's very
I forgot.
inexpensive. Some of the things that you can do to make the video look better.
Exactly. And the other thing is maybe fairly obvious to some people, but just the bandwidth is key. Like make sure if you're in a studio setting, typically they're hardwired, so you're going to get the best possible connection. But it goes without saying, if you're in a Starbucks or somewhere, you're not going to have the best streaming experience. It's not going to be as visually appealing as what Prav is describing.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, I know we are just a minute over, so I want to thank all of our panelists, Beth, of course. So thank you, Kenny, Gio, and Jason, just for all the education this morning. Hopefully everybody has learned something, and hopefully everybody will have a rest of your week is wonderful. I do want to mention for anybody that is, I know the majority of us are here in South Florida. Tech Hub is actually having our birthday party event in Fort Lauderdale. So all of you are welcome to come. It's going to be at Sistrunk Marketplace. And the tickets it's not a set dollar amount. It's completely by donation. So we're trying to raise funds for the organization. So whether you want to do $1 or $10, everything helps. But we just want to see people come out and hopefully network and be a part of the celebration. So again, thank you to all of you.
When is the event?
July 29th. I'm sorry. Did I not say that? Yes. Sorry. July 29th. It's a Friday. Yes. So I think it's next Friday. Yes. Thank you, Jason, for catching that. Because in my brain, I said it.
Awesome. Well, Nikki, thank you very much for having me. This was awesome.
Thank you, Nikki.
Gio, Kenny, great
Of
to
course.
meet you also.
Thank you.
Of course,
Thank you. I just wanted to
everybody.
introduce myself because I wasn't able to earlier. Thank you guys for the content. I really appreciated that. And Kenny, also, I'm a professional golfer, so I saw that you are a big golfer in the corner of your bio there in the corner, which I had to give a little shout out for. But regardless, really appreciated all of the content, very forward thinking. I love the tech space. So kind of lots of synergies within my industry even that I can roll off with. So thank you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining, Marissa. I don't think I've seen you since the lab. It's been a while.
I've been on the road quite a bit, so appreciate the virtual events for sure.
Of course, of course. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.